After 500 years, the Earth's water supply is already very limited. People can only use sand to wash dishes and then blow on it to finish cleaning. If you want to drink water, you have to go to a water filling station and pay for water like gas. Those who can't afford water have to buy alcohol to quench their thirst. Ernest's family lives in a remodeled container house because they can't afford to spend money on water. They usually have to eat slimy food to stay hydrated. They own a large piece of land, but without water, the land becomes useless. Every day, Ernest and his son Jerome make ends meet by walking for hours to bring supplies to the water plant workers. He always tries to get close to the foreman in hopes that the water source will be developed toward their home. However, Ernest has no money to bribe the foreman, so he is rejected every time. On the way home, their donkey, chronically short of water, could not bear the weight and eventually collapsed. The donkey had become part of the family over the years, and Ernest had to endure the pain of having to shoot and send him away. Early the next morning, Ernest and Jerome went to the auction house in town and paid a high price for a used machine donkey. This makes things even more difficult for their already poor family. After buying the donkey, the two men went to the water filling station and filled up a bucket of water. Ernest was too thirsty to resist taking the first sip. This sip of water was their wages for a day's delivery. Even so, Ernest lent a helping hand when he encountered a couple on the side of the road, holding a child and cheating them out of water. His rebellious daughter Mary is dating a boy named Flem, but Ernest thinks he doesn't look like a decent lad and often goes against himself and disrespects his elders. This time, Flem comes to Ernest to borrow a machine donkey, which Ernest ruthlessly rejects. Nevertheless, Mary falls deeply in love with Flem. Ernest strongly opposes them to be together, causing Mary to make a lot of fuss. In order to prevent the two from seeing each other again, Ernest even nails the doors and windows shut to prevent his daughter from leaving the house. However, one day Ernest realizes that the lock of the warehouse door has been picked and the mechanical donkey is missing. He recalls that Flem had approached him to borrow the mechanical donkey a few days before, but not only did he disagree, but it also triggered something unpleasant. As a result, Flem becomes a major suspect. Ernest finds Flem's father and learns that Flem has just gone to the other side of the mountain to make a delivery. It is obvious that the person who stole the mechanical donkey is Flem. Ernest goes over the mountain with his gun on his back, ready to retrieve his mechanical donkey. However, he is knocked out by a sneak attack just as he reaches the hill. Ernest wakes up with a start and is held at knife point by several large men. The water plant workers say that he used the mechanical donkey to sneak away their supplies. No matter how Ernest explained, the other side didn't believe him. Luckily, Ernest was a good fighter and retrieved his gun before he could escape. After dawn, he finally found Flem. The guy was sleeping at gunpoint without any shame. Flem is tied up and Ernest tries to take him to the waterworks worker to confess and clear his name. However, the journey is long and the two men are severely dehydrated. The only supplies they have stolen are wine and not a drop of water. At Flem's show of weakness, Ernest lets his guard down and unties Flem. It turns out that Flem also wants to restore life to the land, but he disagrees with Ernest's prayers to the waterworks foreman. Taking advantage of Ernest's lack of strength, Flem suddenly attacks him, injuring Ernest with a rock and desperately pouring wine until Ernest dehydrates to death. After Mary and Jerome lose their father, Flem is content to move in with him, unaware of the truth. Afterward, Flem finds the water plant foreman and pulls out a dagger with his name engraved on it, threatening the foreman to change the route of the water development or else he will falsely accuse the foreman of killing Ernest. Everyone is bound to believe it because of the conflict between the two men a few days earlier. So the land finally receives water, and Flem works daily to restore the oasis. As spring turns to fall, the land sprouts green shoots and the wheat fields come back to life. Mary is about to become a mom, and she and Flem have a big wedding. On the day of the wedding, Flem gets drunk and is disturbed by what is said and did. That very day, even bigger trouble arises. Several bank clerks ride up to Flem on horseback because they know that Ernest owes a huge amount of money from his life. Now they want to take the land to cover the debt. Flem, of course, disagrees, and in an attempt to raise money to pay off the debt, he gets an unorthodox idea. He cheats his best friend's child and plans to sell it to a human trafficker. However, the trafficker kills his best friend in order to eliminate any future problems, and Flem is nearly killed. Fortunately, he reacts quickly and escapes. However, Machine Donkey is hit by a bullet during the gunfight and his system crashes, initiating an automatic return program and begins to limp back to the repair factory. The owner finds Ernest's son, Jerome, based on the contact information on the Machine Donkey. Little did he realize that the Machine Donkey had cameras mounted on its sides that could record everything that happened in front of it. Jerome looks at his father's fuzzy memory fragments, and a long-lost smile appears on his face. However, as that footage plays, he is shocked to see images of Flem plotting to kill his father. He is surprised to see that he has spent almost a year under the same roof as his father's killer. At the same time, he sees that it was Flem who killed his best friend. However, Jerome does not tell his sister the truth. With a plan of revenge in mind, Jerome rides to Flem disguised as his best friend, lying that he is alive and in need of food. Flem arrives at the promised place, but falls into a trap set by Jerome and breaks his leg. Jerome appears before him coldly, holding a stone in his hand. Flem realizes that everything is exposed. He begs for forgiveness again, but Jerome is unfazed. Eventually, Jerome raises his gun and kills Flem. Jerome leaves with the robot donkey without saying a word. To cover up the truth, he deleted all the footage and never mentioned the incident again. The wheat ripens. The young Jerome decides to carry the burden of the family, and they live a life of relative abundance. As time goes by, Mary also accepts Flem's departure and leaves an uneventful and happy life with her brother.